It was called the Yes program. But other than that, no, I tried staying in the sculpted character outfit most of the time because I mean it's a nice job to have. It is. It's just it's not paid well. It's you
Yeah.
get to make people's, day better. You give them hugs, you take pictures, you have nice magical interactions, you get to work with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. It's a nice job. It just doesn't pay well.
Yeah. Well, and that can be fixed. Hopefully. Okay, so we are running low on time. So we're gonna do this last story, and then we're gonna check in with the chaos going on in the chat right now. This vicious assault on me. So we're gonna get to that in just a sec, but let's talk about this.
Okay.
The right has been laser focused on ending the scourge of critical race theory that is not being taught in basically any schools that your kids would go to. But they certainly want to be seen to be going up against it. And there's no one more transparent in their desire to be involved in this grift than Josh Hawley. So he's got a bill, the Love America Act, that we're going to talk about. But first, here he is on Tucker Carlson's show.
Well, the misinformation that the left is spreading, Tucker, across our schools and to our kids, saying America is a racist country, that we're systemically evil. This is not true. This is a great nation. We're a nation of liberators. It's time to reclaim that and to teach our children who we are, who they are. And that's why my bill would say, listen, if a school district gets federal money, you've got to teach kids the basic truth about the country, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration, Pledge of Allegiance. These are the things, the documents that express the ideals that unite us as Americans. You've got to replace the lies with the truth. And that's what I'm trying to do. And at the end of the day, the left is trying to divide this nation. I mean, that's what they're doing here, is trying to divide us. What unites us is the truth about who we are. So let's learn our history. I'm not afraid of our history. Let's teach students our history. Let's teach them to love this nation, and they'll be ready to lead this nation in the future.
Yeah, okay. So he's just really concerned about the truth. Josh Hawley has just been burning for years a passion to make sure that kids better understand the particular version of right-wing history. No, it's the thing that the right is talking about, and Josh Hawley is an empty vessel who is desperate for the right to like him. They're largely not that interested so far, but this is an attempt. Sabrina, what do you think about this, about the sort of enforced loving of America they're trying to put on kids?
Even the first few seconds of that, he was talking about the liberators. Who are you liberating again?
Mm-hmm.
Who was here before your liberators arrive? Are they not here anymore? Gee, I wonder why. If only there was a way I could learn that. Oh wait, no, you're trying to do away with critical race theory. Like, oh my gosh, everything that he just said was
terrible.
You're right. No, yeah, you're right. He's just trying to appeal to right wing anything, anybody right wing. God.
Yeah, and in a very sad, transparent way. I don't think that he doesn't sell particularly well. He doesn't really care about this, and it's obviously like, I guess I'm sort of skimming over this because it should be pretty obvious, but none of this is true. Like, first of all, that's not what critical race theory is, and also neither that nor what critical race theory actually is being taught in virtually any of these schools, certainly not elementary schools. And even if that was true, like the idea that we would enforce some sort of, again, it's going to be a government approved set of propaganda talking points and narratives for little kids to consume, all under the auspices of stopping propaganda, is bizarre in its own way. And look, my point is, as I have said on Twitter recently, spend less time telling kids that they should love America and give them more reasons to love America. Like we talked earlier about how the poverty rate was cut in half. Okay, well, what if we were to eliminate it entirely? Maybe that would be a source of love for America. What if we all wore masks and got vaccinated and encouraged others to? What if we showed solidarity and concern for each other? That might be a reason to love America. So that would be my advice to Josh Hawley and to the rest of the right.
I don't know, sounds pretty socialist to me.
It does a little bit. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so we're unfortunately running out of time. So Sabrina, overall, very glad to have had you on the show. You have unfortunately unleashed a purple beast, so I'm a little bit worried about that. But Thank you for being here, and in particular, giving us your perspective on the video game industry, because you stream about video games and your experience with Disney. It's much appreciated.
Thanks so much for having me, and I'm looking forward to seeing you and your purple hair.
Thank you. Maybe we'll have you on when I unveil it if it happens. We'll see. But before then, where can people watch your streams?
Absolutely. So if you don't follow me already, you can follow me on twitch.tv/Abelina Sabrina. And same thing with YouTube, youtube.com/Abelina Sabrina.
Nice. And maybe somebody watching saw the one time I appeared on Sabrina's stream to play a ghost hunting game. Maybe someday we'll game again.
I hope so. I think Jordan was telling me something about wanting to play Phasmo again. Let's go.
Let's do it. But until then, have a good day.
Bye.
And for those of you at home, thank you so much. There's so much coming up, though. We're going to be keeping tabs on the subs. There's been a lot coming in. We're running low on time, but I will read a few. Runyon Schoolazant, Naked Crab, Diamond Joker, Ajlandi, Melissa the Defender with 20 there. Stray gifting 10, Tempo Dan, Irie Man, Runyon Schooling multiple times. My ass is dragging again. Coupe de Jarnac, Shadow Wolf, Late Bloomer, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Kodiak Draco, Depressed Progressive again. A bunch of you have been doing it. I can't read all of them right now, but I am gonna go over this. We're gonna tally it up. I'm getting more and more worried, and we'll see. We might have a little bit more to go for tomorrow's show, but I believe, unfortunately, by the end of this week, we're gonna have to talk about me getting my hair dyed. But anyway, we'll see about that. For now, though, as we go to do that dark math, in about 34 minutes, the live Q&A for tier 3 members on YouTube is coming up, so hope to talk to you there. Before then, though, Rashad Ritchie and Dan Evans are gonna be on Indisputable. That's coming up. Ray Actions with Ray Vana is coming up on Twitch after that. So lots to look forward to, including me looking ridiculous. But until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.
Oh, it's on and popping. Good to be with you. This is Indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richey. We got a lot on the agenda today. Breaking down news of the day will be Dan Evans. Dan is host of Power Report. That's at Audio Face. Breaking down news of the day. And debate in the bullpen will be Satyajeet Marar talking about political correctness, media regulation, and immigration. Maybe not in that order. Make sure you tune in, stick and stay for all of that. Should be fun. Ladies and gentlemen, my top story. Right-wing pastor tells his congregation, if you wear a mask, you will get kicked out of his church. Here's that video.
Don't believe this Delta variant nonsense. Stop it. Stop it. I know right-wing watch watching. I don't care. If they go through round 2 and you start showing up all these masks and all this nonsense, I'll ask you to leave. I will ask you to leave. I am not playing these Democrat games up in this church. If you want a social distance, go to First Baptist Church, but don't come to this one. I'm done with it. I said I'm done with it. I ain't playing these stupid games.
This is why I don't go to churches who believe in white Jesus. He is obviously the biggest Karen we've ever had on this program. He is literally telling his congregation that if you have the audacity to simply take care of your own healthcare needs, expressing your healthcare rights, then he will kick you out of his church. This guy's name is Pastor Greg Locke. He used his Sunday sermon to ridicule governmental intervention as it relates to vaccines, and the round 2 he thinks obviously is a hoax. He told his congregants do not believe in this Delta variant. Now, I'm not trying to wish any ill will upon the pastor, nor his congregation, but here's a reality, and we'll report on it when it happens. Somebody's going to die in his congregation from COVID. Yep, you'll see it. It'll happen. Don't want it to happen, and it's avoidable. But time after time again, when we've seen these individuals with extreme power over the masses, telling them what to do, how to think, and how high to jump, we have also seen disaster. We have seen families torn because they listened to their church leader and their nonsense. The Tennessee-based pastor of a church called the Global Vision Bible Church also declared he'll kick anyone out who wears a mask in church. You heard that. Let me read a quote from the church's homepage. It says, "We would like to welcome you to our church. We accept everyone just as they are, but we love you too much to let you stay that way. Come and grow with us as we seek God's will and show his love." Okay, Dan, what are your thoughts here?
I think you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, you don't wish this ill thing to happen on any people, but you've seen it over and over again. I think most recently, like over at least my part of the woods in California in Huntington Beach, there's this restaurant owner who's insistent, like totally insistent on only allowing unvaccinated people. Only allowing unvaccinated people into his restaurant. If you're vaccinated, if you're wearing a mask, he's not allowing you in his restaurant. We've gone to a full, I think it's important to remember the context. I'm a context guy. It's important to remember how we got here. It's because Donald Trump muddied the waters over, should you wear a mask? Should you not wear a mask? Does the vaccine even exist? Should we inject bleach into our veins? Like, because of all of this nonsense and because of this like party power that Donald Trump has over a significant portion of, let's be honest, a white supremacist power system in the United States, we have this muddied idea of what masks do and what masks don't, trusting the science, trusting what people say about this very real virus that has unfortunately claimed the lives of several 100,000 people in the United States, to say nothing of the countless millions worldwide, who are still dying at high rates because while they're struggling with even getting access to vaccines, we're having these nonsense arguments over, oh, I don't want to have the right to have to inject this thing that will be safer to me and my church community, my religious community. So it's complete and total like hypocrisy, but hypocrisy doesn't matter for these church-going people, at least like this flavor of church-going people.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're great folks out there.
Right, I agree. And I want everyone to remember there is nothing else in the healthcare discussion that has been politicized as much as COVID. And think about this, whatever you want to do health-wise with your life, nobody will kick you out of their church because of it, except as it relates to COVID-19. He's not the only pastor saying things like this. Let me shift gears because we have to lift up a story dealing with our dear sister, Simone Biles. She made a decision, good for her. She made a decision that said, my worth, my value, my peace of mind is worth more than a competition or a gold medal. That's what she did. Following her decision to withdraw from competition for mental health concerns, she is now receiving criticism from right-wingers like, of course, Candice Owens, the biggest black white supremacist you know, and Piers Morgan, just a regular ass white supremacist. Here's what Candice said. Let's put up the tweet from Candice. Doing nothing is courage. Nothing is courage. Anyone who disagrees is a white supremacist. And then she does this repost from Seth Dillon. Simone Biles just said sitting out the big competitions shows how strong you really are. That's like saying soldiers who run away from battle are courageous. Cowardice is not courage. Weakness is not strength. Great athletes understand this. First of all, you big dummy. If you are in the US military, you have taken an oath, you are a combat soldier. If you are in combat, you have taken an oath to actually engage in that combat. I'm not a war guy, but it's not the same. You cannot conflate a voluntary competition with being in battle for the US military. And there are plenty of people in the military who ran away, to be quite honest with you. There are plenty of people who get scared. It's a human thing. This woman made a decision because of her health care. Now, this is interesting. This is actually inconsistent with Candice Owens' past. There was, remember the Osaka tweet? Let's go to it. This is Candice Owens saying that Osaka made the right decision. Mental health illness is serious, excuse me, and it is always an act of courage to step away to deal with personal issues. Emphasis on the word personal. It's becoming too fashionable for one person's experience to transform into a demand for everybody else. Wait a minute. Candice Owens is saying that making a decision about your mental health is actually a personal decision, good for that person, and then criticizing our dear sister in the Olympics because she's withdrawing from the gymnastics competition. I don't understand this. So it gets deeper. Prior to her support of Osaka, Owens initially criticized the tennis star, and what did she say? She's starting to get so annoying. Just quit tennis and become a full-time activist. You make millions and are now complaining again because you think you're a special snowflake that shouldn't have to do press conferences because they are a form of mental abuse. It's a real damn shame. Everyone from the Deputy Attorney General of Texas and others are coming at Simone Biles. I don't understand this. Dan, give me some context here, brother. What's happening?
There's multiple layers to this. I think there's an angle of racism, obviously. There's an angle of sexism here, but the main thing is mental illness. right here. It's a lack of understanding in the United States and cultures as a whole of the impact of mental health and one's well-being. I think other gymnasts, like other athletes, were just talking about the impact of, the COVID restrictions that are happening in Tokyo, the weird feelings about the Olympics themselves, what they represent during this like tragic time in the world history, the impact of not being able to have their families there as like moral support during all these tough times. It's difficult, and it's really kind of interesting coming from Candice Owens, who, if you put yourself through the Cringe Fest, which is her interview with Joe Rogan, that infamous one, she talks about her kind of first origin story, where she was in the center of a racist incident that was directed towards her in middle or high school because of, I believe, like the mayor's son or something like that. And so she talked a lot about the mental health and trauma of that. And she also talked about the like viciousness of left wingers and things like that, and the mental illness and or the impact of her mental health there. But of course she's ready to turn on Simone Biles because that's where she collects her check. That's how she collects her money, is giving white right wingers an excuse to have their racism because they have a figurehead for that who also happens to be black. It's nonsense. It's like Larry Elder did it first, really, but like, look at us now.
Yeah, and obviously Larry Elder didn't do it the best. Candice Owens is at the top of the pile at this point. The race to the bottom belongs to Candice. There's something else happening. Young people trying to do something to make the world a better place. Black Lives Matter, okay? Great
100%.
movement, has been able to transform local governments, policing as we know it, all across the United States of America, and it continues to go strong. Well, a group of young people who painted a Black Lives Matter mural on a Garden State Parkway underpass last week were told to repaint their artwork after town officials said it was inappropriate. So let me bring up the artwork first. There you have it. That's your artwork right there. Now they're saying, well, everything else is appropriate except for the fist. Let's bring it back up again. Pay attention to the fist. So the city manager had an issue with the fist, as well as some other residents and a few of the city officials. The artist, led by a recent high school graduate, May Yasa, from Clifton, had obtained permission from the city to paint the mural complete with BLM fist in the air. They have permission to do this. These are young people engaged in their community. They have permission to paint this. They saw what it was, they put it out there, it was approved, and then it was painted. It's a beautiful picture. But somehow that fist was controversial. That fist made people uncomfortable. Wait a minute, this is supposed to be a Black Lives Matter mural. And the iconic black fist pisses you off. They had to go back and paint over the fist. Now, remember, the fist represented Black Lives Matter back in the day. Let's go to 1968. During the medal ceremony in 1968, Olympic Stadium, y'all remember this. If you were living, even if you were not living, it's iconic. The fist in the air. Tommy Smith, John Carlos, each raised a black gloved fist during the playing of the US national anthem. Why? Because they were saying Black Lives Matter. They didn't have the terminology, wasn't the same phrase, but the same sentiment. Black Lives Matter. So let me take you back to this city. City manager Dominic Villano had some reservations. When we start making political statements, we're opening up a can of worms, Villano told NJ Advanced Media on Tuesday. This is public property. We have to tread lightly. A fist in the air is a political statement. No, it is a human statement. It is a human rights statement. It is a civil rights statement. It is not a political statement. Just because something has become politicized by you does not mean it is inherently political. It continues. Villano said he objected mostly to the raised fist, which he felt divided members of the public. City workers painted over the fist with a rectangular shaped white box. Throw the picture up again. If you notice what they did to it, see how they do? Out of all of the things they could have done, they literally painted white over it. That makes me uncomfortable. Does my voice count? Now I'm offended. I think it's inappropriate. Citizens of that local community, they think the white box is inappropriate. Is the city listening to them? No. The city said they are not going to budge on it. Villano also said, instead of a fist, I thought it was better to see something that promotes peace, happiness, or love. So according to the city manager, ladies and gentlemen, the fist does not promote peace, it does not promote happiness, and it does not promote love. Bias much? Dan, what are your thoughts here?
I think that last part just really gave it away right there. The fact the city manager doesn't understand the history, the context of that power fist. Like, it is a response to hundreds of years of injustice. It's an attempt to say, we matter, we exist, and we want to fight for the same amount of rights, the same amounts of equal treatment, the same amount of protection under the law, rather than vindication, vilification under the law that our white counterparts tend to expect, right? So the entire thing is just a case study in white fragility taking out in its like worst levels, but especially when it's happening on a city level, right? Like, it's just, as you kind of laid it out there, it's just kind of disgusting.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is that even how they said it became a problem shows that it later was political, because all of the art was approved by the city, which means they reviewed the proposal, they agreed with the proposal, and they had no problem with the mural. Only when others said, no, you see, black fists are political to us. Black fists are offensive to us. Instead of the city standing up and saying, well, listen, that's on us because we approved it already, and we did not find it to be objectionable, nor did we find it to be offensive nor political. And that's why we approved the painting. But instead of standing up for these young people, instead of standing up on the right side of Black Lives Matter, they literally prove that black lives don't matter as much as the white ones in their community. That is what they literally proved in their inability to defend that mural. Quite ironic. Dan?
Yeah, even the political statement thing, that excuse is kind of lame to me, because I want to know the city manager's opinion on naming things Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue, or like what's their opinion on Confederate statues, or like Cesar Chavez Boulevard. Let's just like start hitting down the list. What don't you like about post offices? What don't you like about like, let's do the whole thing. Let's run the whole gamut, honestly, right? Because we celebrate figures, we celebrate things or symbols of importance in this country, to this country, everywhere we go, all right? Yep. So, and this is a figure, a symbol of importance, as you said, to the black community there. And it shouldn't just be a symbol for the black community. It's like important for the black community, but it should be an understanding for all communities that this struggle for injustice continues. It can be experienced in the realm of sports, in the realm of politics, in the realm of a lot of other things, just because it's a part of life and a part of culture. And it's, when you see moments like this, where you see people getting uncomfortable from the nature of it, uncomfortable from the even minor expression of it, they're not saying defund the police. They're not putting that in the sign. They're just saying the power fist, something that's been there in history, something that people do in protest for environmentalism, things that are very layered and abstracted away from like race, at least in the surface, although we can get into environmental racism another day perhaps, right? It definitely shows all I've got for is fragility right there.
Yeah, and you know what this is really about, Dan? This is about one thing, just being too black for them. That's what this is really about. They feel that, okay, wait a minute, we can do the little heart, you can make a symbol. We don't mind it being black hands, but that fist is just too damn black. That's right, do the peace symbol, but that fist, that's just too black for us. That's what that was about. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
I'm Nina Turner, and we are on the road to revolution, baby.
Hello, somebody. And I know sometimes people talk about the angry black woman, but I'm gonna tell you something. If you ain't mad as a mofo about what's going on here, something is wrong with you.
When people ask me all the time, what are the lessons from 2020, is that progressives have to get more organized and we got to come together. We have to be as agile as neoliberals. The progressive movement has to understand that it's not just enough for us to have the right ideas. We are right on most of the ideas. We're not perfect, but we're 99% right because it is a humanitarian agenda, but we must get the power. We have to come together in a more unified way so that we utilize our power strategically to topple neoliberalism, and it's gonna happen.
Hi, I'm John, and I'm new to TikTok, but about 3 years ago, I started my daily political news show, The Damage Report, because I noticed this trend where every morning I was waking up to this tsunami of news that was just generally dreadful and horrifying and shocking, and I thought that if I could spend my time helping people to navigate this, serving as a bit of a life raft, pointing out which news is important and why, there are worse ways to spend your day. We're not an average news show, and we don't want our TikTok presence to be average either, so feel free to let us know what you'd like us to do on the platform, and maybe give us a follow at The Damage Report.
All right, Amazon Prime members, here's how you can subscribe for free on Twitch. Start by linking your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, and then click that little subscribe or resubscribe button below the stream on Twitch. Scroll down and select the subscribe free with Prime button, and then you're finished. Close out immediately and share your little subscription alert with the chat. Send a cute message along with it and bathe in the sweet, twitchy, Bezos-funded love. Hashtag Bezos Bucks.
Hey everyone, Mateo Scarapore here, author of Black Buck, which is Shop TYT's first fiction book ever. I'm honored. So, Black Buck is about a young man named Darren who's living in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. He lives with his mom, he has his girlfriend, he has his best friend, he has his neighborhood, and his neighborhood has him. Darren's also working at a Starbucks in Midtown Manhattan. And one day, this man, who's real suave and good looking, comes in and asks Darren to give him his regular. But for some reason, Darren says no. This man named Rhett Daniels, who's the CEO of a startup called Someone, located on the 36th floor of the same building, is impressed. And he invites Darren upstairs, and then he extends an offer to join his elite sales team. Darren reluctantly joins, and he soon realizes that he's not the only black salesperson there. He's the only black person in the entire company. So he goes through hell and back in order to make it to the top. And once there, he has status, money, power, but he says, you know what? I don't like being the token black guy. So he hatches a plan to help other people of color infiltrate America's tech startup sales teams, redefining what it means to be a minority in the workplace. This book, definitely, if you couldn't tell, touches on many things that are relevant to this moment that we're all living in right now. But it's also connected to the many moments in history that have come before today. I hope that you read it. I hope that you enjoy it. And if you want to order a copy, go to shoptyt.com. Thank you, be well, and happy 2021.
Welcome back. All right, we got a lot of viewer comments to read. I will read as many as I can. Make sure you are subscribing to Indisputable TYT, Indisputable TYT. We have over 150,000 subscribers on their YouTube page. Follow us on social media, Twitter and Instagram, Indisputable TYT. Okay, our TYT member, Carlson is a lying mother Tucker, says instead of standing up against racism, Candice Owens ran away from her own community and took that white supremacy money. That's right, Dan was right. That's what she does. She gets paid. YouTube super chat, Nate says, almost 100% correct, Dr. Richey. Not just COVID. Abortion is yet another personal health decision the church will get involved with. You're right, but it's really interesting because pastors, they have people in their churches who have had abortions, and many of them are open about it. But this pastor said, if you're wearing a mask, you got to get up out of his church. Exoteric Dragon, USMC, combat vet here. Thank you for your service, by the way. Running troops ragged also kills troops in the field. Gymnastics is different, but he disproved his own damn point anyway. Good point. Stoneflower Dragon says Candice is a grifter. She says whatever serves her monetary purpose. That's right. Jill Wagner, I lost the love of my life last year because he believed all the conspiracy theories. Keep telling the truth. Lives are on the line. Jill, I'm very sorry to hear that. And thank you for sharing that, okay? Pegasus, sport is a mental game. And if you're not in the right headspace, you can slip up, miss the trick, and hurt yourself. It's dangerous. That's right. Crumble 104, thank you. Billy T, Dr. Richie, like Muhammad Ali, you are the greatest, my brother, knocking them out with truth. Thank you, I appreciate that. Shamira Hill, I look forward to your show every day. You're the real truth. Love you, Dr. Richie. Fan for life. And I love you back. Thank you for that. Hago de Rogue. Oh, goodness gracious, he did a 360. Yeah, the pastor did. He got so excited. The spirit of white Jesus overwhelmed him. Let me just say this straight up. I get invited to speak in churches all the time. And I make it very clear. If you all have a picture of white Jesus, please take it down before I get there. Because I will refuse to preach in a church with white Jesus. And if you keep it up there, I will talk about you during my speech, okay? One person didn't believe me. I'll send that to y'all one day. Bubba Husky, if you want to wear a mask and socially distance, go to a church with walls and a foundation. Yeah. Okay, Twitch, Insomnia Nord. They literally whitewashed the mural. Literally whitewashed it. You can tell me, you can call me Jess. It had to be some big political donor that had an issue with the fist. Disgusting. And you're probably right. It may have just been one really powerful person in that community who supports Donald Trump. And they said, no, we're gonna get rid of this fist. Just tell them it's political and keep moving. Ladies and gentlemen, my next story is complex, but necessary to cover. A judge has now found probable cause to charge a Wauwatosa cop in the fatal shooting of a man back in 2016. So let me give you some background. This is in Milwaukee. A judge has ruled there is probable cause to charge a former cop. His name is Joseph Mensah for the 2016 shooting of Jay Anderson Jr. At the time of the shooting, Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office ruled the shooting to be justified. Now I need you to remember that. Back in 2016, a cop kills a citizen. The DA's office said, nothing to see here, 100% justified. Years later, Judge Glenn Yamahiro made another decision. This decision has not been taken lightly, the judge says, nor was it predetermined. Based upon the totality of the circumstances, the court does find probable cause that Officer Joseph Mensah operated a weapon in a matter constituting criminal negligence, and in so doing, caused the death of Jay Anderson Jr. Therefore, the court finds probable cause that Officer Mensah committed the crime. Homicide by negligent handling of a dangerous weapon. The basis for this finding rests in the testimony received over the course of these hearings. The judge also said the cop created an unreasonable and substantial risk of death in the shooting, okay? The judge is expected to appoint a special prosecutor on September 28th. That person will review the case and will determine whether they believe there's probable cause to charge Mensah with a crime. Let's put up a picture of the cop that almost got away completely with murder. Almost got away. And would have gotten away if it had not been for this rule in Milwaukee, which allows for a district judge to make an independent determination based on testimony, even when the DA decides not to charge a police officer. Mensah is now a deputy with the Waukesha County Sheriff's Office. And let's put up a picture of the young man he killed. Let me give you some background on this. Mensah was alone the night of June 23rd when he came across Anderson asleep in his car at 3 a.m. Mensah alleged after he ordered Anderson to raise his hands, which Anderson complied with, Anderson leaned a couple of times toward the passenger seat where a gun was sitting. Dashcam footage showed Mensah fired into the vehicle. Anderson was shot 5 times in the head and once in the shoulder. Details on this new development, Kimberly Motley, the attorney for the Anderson family, used a rare legal process to pursue charges against Officer Mensah in connection with the shooting. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, a defense attorney, a family attorney doing what the prosecutor failed to do. A judge looking at the evidence, making the determination probable cause exists. Now remember, the DA typically brings the charges. The DA brings the indictment. The DA brings the evidence. This DA brought nothing. This private attorney did. Under Wisconsin law, if a district attorney refuses or is unavailable to issue a complaint, a circuit judge may permit the filing of a complaint. Before the court can do that, the judge must find probable cause to believe that a person should be charged with an offense. Ladies and gentlemen, it gets even deeper. It goes even deeper than this. Now remember, this happened in 2016. 2016, he kills a guy. Shoots him in the head and the shoulder. He's gone, he's dead. DA says nothing to see here. Mensah has shot and killed 3 people in the line of duty during a 5-year span while he was employed with the Wauwatosa Police Department. You hear that, right? 3 people he's killed in the line of duty. The Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office ruled all 3 shootings justified self-defense, including the most recent shooting of a 17-year-old named Alvin Cole in 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, you may have, once again, inside of the police department, a serial killer. Over 90% of police officers never fired their weapon on duty. 99% never have to use it fatally. But this guy has killed 3 people, and the DA has cleared him of all. The latest being a 17-year-old. Let's put up a picture of this young man. That's Alvin Cole. Alvin Cole is dead. Now, according to the current narrative, this cop should have been charged in 2016. But because he was not, he was free to kill other people. This is just one of them. The shooting occurred after Cole refused a command to drop a firearm he was holding. 5 shots were fired by Mensah after Cole allegedly pointed a gun at him. He had been at the scene less than 30 seconds before all of this happened. Obviously, a lot of questions now about every single shooting this cop has been a part of. Dan, what are your thoughts?
I mean, so many. You just laid out how deep the story really runs, and how you see yet another story of yet another police officer who not only commits all of these egregious acts against people and ending their lives, causing ripple effects through their families. Think of what these folks could have done with their lives and their futures, and how that was taken away from them from this killer cop. And like, the people will say, oh, well, this cop's black, look at that. Well, it's like, again, these are about systems we're talking about. We're talking about the police as a structure and as a system. And on that point, I will say this to anyone who goes, well, it's just a few bad apples, there's just a couple of people who are like this. What about all those good apples who saw someone killing people in the force, like in the line of duty, and knew this was happening, and let him stay, giving him a gun, giving him a badge, not doing the standard, oh, we'll give you 2 weeks of administrative leave or whatever, desk duty, and then you come back. Like, if the police system works as it does, and I'm of the opinion, and based on a lot of evidence over the past years and much bloodshed, I think I'm really right here. If this policing system works, how come these bad apples are constantly allowed to stay? How come these bad apples only get whittled out through these, like, wow, you wouldn't believe it, they found some random law that allows them to work in this particular situation to get this one police officer? That's not a system that works if this continues happening, when this keeps happening, as this continues happening. So this continues to strengthen the calls for rethinking and reimagining what the idea of policing is, what the idea of safety is, and what we want in our communities, and what our minimum level of expectation is. Because someone coming with a gun to my car and telling me to hold my hands up is a robbery. If you're wearing a badge, it still is like an opportunity where I feel like I'm threatened, but I have to be really submissive to that, because if I'm not, they'll make up an excuse and end my life, okay? And like, I don't know if you know people who have had a gun held up to them by their cop or whoever. I do, and I know that experience. It doesn't make you feel safe. So we need to rethink policing in this country.
Yeah, very well said, very well said. Okay, we got more. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday?
I feel free! Back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
I let that man leave, man. You got that man blocked in over there. Look, man, that's crazy. That's crazy. Ma'am, you have more important things to worry about. Like,
He can't park there?
ma'am, you have more important things to worry about. You have to get you a neck, ma'am. You have to go get you a neck. You have no neck, ma'am. You got to go get you a neck. You out here being racist and you don't even have a neck, ma'am. You got to get you a neck. You hear me? Ma'am, I know what they said next. You go on Amazon right now, they got necks for $27. You get you a whole neck. You just put it on your shoulders. You put it on your shoulders and you good, ma'am. Okay? What you want? Uh-oh. They about to tussle. There she go. She called her fat. I know you ain't going. There they go. Man, you gotta go get you a neck now. Go get you a neck. Just go on Amazon, man, get you a neck. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Look at her, now she ain't got nothing to do. Ma'am, you just wasted all your time in your life and you still ain't got no neck.
Oh my God. The guy who provided the amazing narration of this reminds me of a cat I was raised with named Nard. Oh my goodness. That was just priceless. I mean, without that commentary, we would have been lost. Now, obviously, this is quite ridiculous, another Karen, because somebody parked too close to her car, she decides to block them in. But here's the irony. Let's show the graphic of where she parked. She's the one too damn close to the line. She literally parks on top of the line and then blocks somebody else for parking within the lines. But see, this is what privilege does to you. She's the one completely in the wrong. And so naturally, another individual, we've seen this before with Karens, people are rising up against these Karens. Another person, a black female, steps up and decides to block the Karen from blocking the car. Poetic justice. And all of the jokes and the laughs we received from that commentary, priceless. Dan?
Yeah, I am well known around the TYT offices for my opinions on parking and how I may have my opinions on the death penalty may shift strongest in the debate if we talk about parking on the lines properly. But I think overall, that was the thing that caught me most in the video, that she is acting every which way about this, and she's the one who parked wrong. All right, like she's the one who is in the wrong here. But like, entitlement doesn't matter. If you have a reason to be mad, you have a reason to have an excuse, then you're gonna always make it your problem. I am, of course, because of the stuff that tends to be covered like in these situations, at least this ended with humor, so I'm at least happy about that.
Yeah, when he said, "You out here being racist and you don't have a neck," I damn near fell out my chair. This was one of the, I like the fact that there was somebody there to provide some comic relief to the whole thing, right? Maybe creating some lightness to the situation. But just think about the irony of a lot of these Karens. There has been this narrative that Karens are afraid of black men, that they are afraid of black people, that they fear people in the black and brown community. I have yet, brother, to see a Karen afraid of a black person. I have yet to see it. I have yet to see this happen. And I think what is going down now, because we're seeing more people actually speaking up and getting involved, I'm talking about folks that are not involved, is that individuals are starting to collectively get upset and collectively start standing up for people against these Karens.
That's the best part of it, really.
Yeah, agreed. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
We are on to something that is going to be amazing, but what we need is your help.
The number one problem is there's too much power in too few hands.
Every single problem that we have can be traced back to dark money.
They take large donors, they serve large donors.
So these handful of gatekeepers try to dictate everything.
Like all of you already know, they don't work for you, they work for their donors. So fire them and hire people who will only work for you, that say no corporate back money.
We are going to change the way we elect candidates in this country.
Uncorrupted Democrats. We're gonna fight for the issues and win on policy.
This is incredibly personal. We need free healthcare for everyone.
We're fighting for $15 minimum wage, single payer healthcare, debt-free college, and we are gonna get money out of politics once and for all.
I've taken a public pledge not to accept any corporate money.
Because the last thing we're gonna do is go into another presidential election and run a corporatist against a populist candidate.
At some point, the buck needs to stop, and it's gonna stop with us. It's gonna stop with Justice Democrats.
So who are we?
People who do not take corporate PAC money.
We're relying on small donors.
99.9% of our contributions came from people.
You're a Justice Democrat, so you don't take any corporate PAC money.
I'm not influenced by money.
As a Justice Democrat, I made that pledge.
Not a penny. Absolutely no.
I will go to Congress unbossed and unbought.
We try to create a government which works for all of us.
That is what America's about, and that's what a representative democracy should be about.
We are just getting warmed up here.
Vote for uncorrupted Democrats. The fight starts now, it starts today, and it starts with you.
I've been honest with him. Like, yeah, I was upset with you and I shouldn't have done it. But instead I was like, I'm just trying to protect my engagement ring.
Did you know that more than 20% of the world's oxygen comes from the Amazon? Why? Because of trees. I know what you're thinking. Of course! So what do we want to do? We want to plant more trees so we can save the climate. It's quite literal. So that's what leads to our new partner, Plant Your Change. Love it. It's so easy. What they do is you take the credit or debit cards you already have and you plug it into the system. And if you so choose, you get to round up every purchase to the nearest dollar, and they plant a tree for you, okay? Now, you could also choose if you wanna do it on only certain kinds of purchases or only so often, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But literally every cent makes a difference here. It's plant your change. And if you wanna know more information, just go to tyt.com/trees. Let's go save the planet together.
Now, top. No. No. No.
Today, a terrible day for the internet, a terrible day for America. The internet as we know it is not going to exist anymore.
A real dark day for information, and yet another way that they're bleeding out the democracy.
We're now going to have these gatekeepers of information deciding what we can and can't see, and that's what scares me the most.
Whether you're conservative or progressive or anywhere in the middle, this is the one thing we should all agree to. Protect the internet, because the establishment is coming for it. Don't let them destroy the internet.
Welcome back to Indisputable. We got a lot of viewer comments. I will read as many as I can. Thank you all for chiming in. TYT member Mickey C. the Silver-Haired Dragon says, that cop has killed 3 people in the line of duty. Meanwhile, the vast majority of cops never draw their guns. These murderers are almost always repeat offenders because they're protected. Isn't it interesting how they are repeat offenders so many times? Rob says, Karen looked like she's never been boxed out of the key during a pickup game before. First time for everything. LMG 15, can we get a follow up on that Karen when she gets a neck? Damn. Super chat, Lisa T, thank you for that. As a 50-something white woman, I really wish these Karens would stop. Yeah. CS says, I sent you an email, Dr. Richard, it might not be worth your time, but it was asking for your help with combating my area's anti-CRT stance. CS, I got your email. It is a lengthy email, which will require a lengthy response. I plan to get back to you this weekend, okay? Butterfly, Chauvin got 22 years after killing Floyd, yet this black cop gets 54 years, question mark. Roger Harris says, my people will roast you, yeah. Okay, here's some jokes. DOD says, that sister saved her in the neck of time. I'm Keevan says, Karen ain't from them neck of the woods.
Oh, come on. Are you certain that Jank is not like writing these? No, like secretly. I know he watches.
Possible. Anything's possible. All right, a York Jiff says she has a bad case of lackle neck. Okay. Twitch, Jax Drax. There needs to be less rare legal processes that people can use to charge the police for their crimes. They make it as hard as possible to get any justice. You're right. This is a case that was very unique. Okay, next story. Lieutenant General says that Trump and his White House were complicit in the January 6th terrorist attack. Lieutenant General Russell Honore told MSNBC's Jeff Bennett the Trump White House was in fact complicit in planning the Capitol riot. Here's some of that.
Many indications here that the executive branch was complicit in what happened on Wednesday. From what I see on television, not based on our investigation we did to prevent future attacks on the Capitol with training and intelligence police. But what's coming out clear is that the executive branch was complicit complicit, and maybe certain agency leadership members may have been complicit.
Wow, that's staggering. I mean, that's a big statement coming from a very important person in the government. During the hearing on Tuesday, and we played some of that earlier this week, one of the officers referred to the insurrectionists as terrorists, and rightfully so, while another denounced the Capitol attack as an attempted coup. Honore also suggested the Trump White House was behind the delayed federal response on that day. Here's more.
When you say the executive branch was complicit, the Trump White House was complicit in this attack, are you able to assign names? And I ask you that because you conducted that security assessment. And to Clint's question, do you know who was in touch with the Department of Defense? Do you know why there was that delay in getting more law enforcement to the Capitol as frantic calls were made for reinforcements?
No, this was not a part of my investigation. It's my personal opinion that the executive branch was complicit in the planning and the delayed response that occurred in bringing in more federal assistance to the Capitol that day. That's my own perception based on what I've seen and what I've heard, and by the fact that former president continuing to tell people this was not a riot, it meant no harm, it was like a picnic, it was like a stroll. He was complicit because the last I heard from him, he told them to go to the Capitol and raise hell. And many members of his party told him to be tough and to go fight. That's the complicity in the terms of intent, and that complicity, I think, rolled over in response.
I mean, damn, he's telling you exactly how he feels. So let's remember, Donald Trump was in fact impeached for leading the insurrection against the United States government. He was acquitted by Republican cronies who also actually agreed that he was responsible for the insurrection against the United States government, but because they lack backbone and they are cowards, they still voted to acquit the guy. Dan, strong words, right?
Yeah, he does not mince words, and honestly, I miss that sort of reality spitting out here because there's been so many really tragic sort of like retellings of what happened on January 6th that have been done for political aims and angles to try to make the Republicans look in a nicer light, as though they didn't enable this from the previous election when Trump said that he wouldn't concede unless he wins, to literally the day of, where, yeah, like he's saying, Trump suggested to raise hell, to go to the Capitol, prevent the count. Some people were courageous, some people aren't. Mike Pence, yada, yada, yada. And only when things started getting bad was he like, okay, I'm going to retreat a little bit. Let's calm down here. Trump's saying like, okay, everyone's being peaceful, everyone's being friendly, etc. That like a picnic portion just makes me laugh every single time. But we need to get to the reality of what's happening here, because come the 2022 midterms, these same clowns are gonna try to run on Trumpism essentially, because Trumpism is what's working in the Republican Party, that and culture war nonsense. So we need to like show how toxic this has become and stop this, head this off at the past before you get to the presidential election, because then it could really get ugly for the future of America.
Yeah, and Trumpism has not reached a plateau. Trumpism has not reached market saturation, meaning it is still growing, it is still permeating, and it is still becoming popularized in the right or the far right movement. Now, what's happening is that what we consider to be far right extremists are now becoming center of the party as far as politics is concerned, to where they are controlling from central of the party everything that happens in the party. You do not have a battle between moderates in the Republican Party or just your regular conservatives and Trumpites. Trumpites are running it. They are running the show, because you can't win a Republican primary in most states without getting the support and endorsement of Donald J. Trump. Okay, shifting gears, a very sad story. An Army Ranger has been charged for murdering a black female security guard. This is such an odd story that is still developing. According to the footage, this Army Ranger, active duty, dragged this woman like a rag doll, beat her to where she was not even recognizable. The Pierce County Prosecutor's Office filed first-degree murder charges on Friday, July 23rd, against a man accused of murdering a security guard in Washington State this month. Let's put up a picture of the killer and the young lady that he is accused of killing. The young lady is Denise Smith. The alleged killer is Patrick Philip Byrne. Now, according to the report, this 26-year-old Army Ranger stationed at Joint Base Lewis McChord was charged with the death of 41-year-old Denise Smith, who was found severely beaten and dead in downtown Tacoma on July 18th. Put up another picture of this guy, okay? Remember, active duty, special training, Army Ranger. The US Army released a statement on Friday after learning of the charges and said, and I quote, "The actions described in reports are absolutely appalling. The Tacoma Police Department has full cooperation with the United States Army Special Operations Command. Our deepest condolences to the families affected by this tragedy." Wow. Once again, a developing story. We are not aware of intent yet, but this is a story that we're going to stay on top of. Now, the alleged killer has pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder, first-degree burglary, and 2 counts of first-degree kidnapping. His bail was set by a Superior Court judge, Gerald Johnson, at $2 million. That's according to the News Tribune report. Why does he have bail? I have to bring your attention to this part of the saga. This is a man who they have on video brutally killing a black female, beating her for 10, 15 minutes. She's no longer recognizable. Okay, that's the egregious part. Let's go on the other side. This is a person with specialized training and international connections. Why does he get a bond? This makes no sense to me. It goes on. The attack that left Ms. Smith unrecognizable, according to prosecutors, was captured by cameras. Footage shows the 6-foot Byrne enter the building and encounter Smith. Smith, who was just 5 feet, grabbed Byrne's shirt to attempt to keep him from barging past her. Byrne then began to beat Smith for between 8 to 10 minutes. Okay, we're not showing the video. We don't have the footage to show you. I'm going to show you a beautiful young lady, as I'm sure her family would want her to be remembered. Here's a picture of her. She was doing her job. She was doing her job. Let me give you a little more description. During that time, the defendant repeatedly punched the victim with his fist, and he grabbed her by her braid and dragged her around like a rag doll. Prosecutors wrote in the charging papers, Byrne prevented Smith from escaping multiple times, stabbed her in the face with her keys, and choked her until she went limp. Put up a picture of this guy again. Let's get a picture of him back up there. He gets a bond. He gets a bond. During the defendant's lengthy attack on the victim, she repeatedly tried to fight back and she tried to get away, but the defendant grabbed her each time and prevented her from fleeing. Records say he repeatedly overpowered her, assaulted her, and threw her around by her hair braid. But this scumbag gets a bond. Dan?
It shows the ills of a system, not a system that allows a person this despicable to be allowed to not to just still go on the streets, essentially, right? To still be doing this. This person has problems. This person is not like stable and shit's not like, would be considered to be armed and dangerous if they were a person of color and running from the law and had done essentially the same thing, right? So it's just absolutely egregious. And like, this violence, I think, from folks in the army, not everyone in the army, but from people of color, like this was reminiscent of the like Vanessa Guillen case from a couple of years ago, where she was killed because of like, again, another like person in the army combining like toxic masculinity with violence against women of color. And it was a similar like gruesome murder that there seemed to be like not a lot of care from the authorities. And so whose lives matter? Why do certain lives and certain experiences matter more than others in these instances? And why are there patterns, right? That's what always bothers me, that we have to end up spending time on these like despicable people because they took away these lives that could have continued, right? And so we're taking away time that could have been spent on these people's lives, that should be spent on these people's lives and what they were doing and where they were going and where they were heading, what good they were doing, right? But ultimately, it's absolutely a disgusting indictment of the American injustice system.
Yeah, very well said. Brother, it has been a pure pleasure having you on Indisputable. My man, tell people how they can follow you on social media, catch up with you.
It's been great to have you, great to be on with you rather. And you can find me on Twitter at Dan from the Web and on YouTube, youtube.com/Dan from the Internet. That's where all the Power Report stuff is. And yeah, keep it real.
Man, I thank you for all you do, brother.
Take care.
We got more on the other side. Stick and stay. Bullpen is next.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like, tyt.com/join, and enjoy this.
You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitsing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny. Bye. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent.
Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Cenk. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Such a big fan. Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, AKA Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
And this is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. I'll refer to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool, rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT?
Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
All right, welcome to Dr. Rashad Richard Indisputable. This is going to be quite interesting. I don't know if you can handle this much truth on any day of the week. The unrest inside of the black community and communities that support them. It's because these cops are not held accountable. You have a family calling 911 and that family is expecting help, not expecting their loved one to be killed by the very people they pay to protect and serve them. Did you ever notice a cop that you work with call any black person the N-word or target people because they were black? Nope. But we disagree that somehow police officers are not also subject to the same systemic biases and racism as any other level of law enforcement.
It sounds like for everybody's need who wants to crucify the cops without looking at it.
No, crucify bad cops, brother. Bad cops.
We don't need the government to step into our lives, mandating that we should be wearing a mask.
You think You putting on a mask, Trey, is government intrusion. But you don't think the government telling a woman what she can or cannot do with her body isn't government intrusion.
Where does life begin?
You want to go there?
I can read it to you, bro.
You seem very well prepared. Certainly more.
Of course, why would I not be well prepared? They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reform throughout this country, so I won't stop, and you won't stop either.
Climate is changing fundamentally, extremely, and non-linearly. It's becoming worse now. It's not when the levees burst that is the problem. It's in the anticipation of that.
So I hope every human being is safe. And by human beings, I do not include multinational corporations, especially the ones that started climate change in the first place.
What we're currently doing right now in cutting emissions is clearly not enough. There will be ramifications to what Trump is doing. I don't want people to suffer, but I feel like there's gonna be a lot of suffering because we have an imbecile as our leader.
All right, welcome back. We got some comments, let's get to it. We have, TYT member Rob says, she was beautiful. Thanks for telling us her story. Thank you, Rob. Tempest Parham says, I don't even want to think about what happened to her. It's horrible. It's horrible to think about it. Topher Barrow says, he couldn't control his training. He would have become a cop after military service. Joanne Adake, that is awful. This is home to us. Damn him for the shame he brought to our town and for the death he committed. Wow. Twitch, Yarwingate, so sad my heart goes out to her family. DJ Bleak, I serve with too many people who are eager to see violence occur. Yeah. All right, thank you all for the comments. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bullpen. In the Bullpen today, we have Satyajeet Marar, research associate of the Center for Independent Studies, technology writer, and policy analyst. Good day, welcome.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about, let's start with immigration policy. I don't want to presume what you believe or what you have analyzed in your policy studies. So what are your thoughts about immigration policy in the United States of America?
Well, as a foreign national who spent a year and a half in the United States, I think that skilled immigration is a big part of what makes the U.S. a successful and thriving nation. And I think one of the beautiful things about the U.S. is this idea about embracing people from all around the world, regardless of what their origin is. When I was in the U.S., it didn't matter where I was from. It didn't matter that I speak with a funny cadence. What mattered is what I brought to the table. And I think having a policy that reflects that is what is America's advantage. The best and brightest from everywhere. And the cold, huddled masses who yearn for freedom, giving them a home where they can go out and, reflect those aspirations.
I think that's very well said. What are your thoughts about some of the more conservative leaning policies that basically are antithetical to the connection and the immigration connection to others around the world? It's a very exclusionary doctrine.
Yeah, I think sometimes it does veer into that territory. I think there needs to be a nuanced discussion about immigration when you talk about the form it takes, legal versus versus what they call undocumented immigration. I would love to see a world where the US accepts just as many immigrants as it currently does, but is able to have an efficient and quick pathway for refugees, who are fleeing persecution, and for people who want to pursue economic opportunities, because it's only ever, been to America's benefit at the end of the day. And look, as an Australian, to be honest with you, it is in my, in Australia's interest for America to be strong and prosperous, because you guys are our security partner in a world where we see, less liberal societies like the People's Republic of China coming up. And I think if America is unable to continue attracting the best and brightest people, regardless of the national origin, I think their ability, your ability to compete with the likes of, a rising China, less liberal societies is going to, be at risk.
That's really interesting. And you're talking about the attraction model, which I agree with you on that as well. It strengthens the overall fortitude of our power and our might, right? So it's a good thing in the workforce. It's a good thing with training. It's a good thing in the educational sector, but it's also a good thing in the labor market. So let me read something. And this comes from the Congressional Budget Office. People will make the argument that somehow undocumented immigrants take away from this country more than they give back. They would just say that without any context. You're a policy guy, I'm a policy guy. They never researched it. They don't have a statistic. They don't have a source. They just say it because they assume it. So let me read something from the CBO. According to the CBO, undocumented immigrants pay a lot of money in taxes. One of about 6 million, this guy named Arturo was one in about 6 million who actually pay taxes annually. Now, that means, and this is just talking about undocumented workers from Mexico. So the data was itemized. So out of Mexico, 6 million individuals who are undocumented actually pay taxes, and they pay taxes to things they will never benefit from. So they're not utilizing those services. So let me break it down a little more. The report from the CBO shows that 50% to 75% of undocumented immigrants pay billions in taxes each year and have been doing so since the Internal Revenue Service created a program that allow people without a social security number to file taxes. So literally, you have this just one segmented program being able to bring in billions of dollars, and you've never heard anyone make that argument on the other side. There's another report that came out that roughly 30% of the current workforce, it is an immigrant or undocumented workforce. You have that higher in some states like Arizona and others. You would tremendously damage that economy if you did a roundup and told everybody they have to go to their country of origin. And over 80% of individuals that come to the country undocumented come to work. The same federal law that says it's illegal to work undocumented, the subsection of that law says it's illegal to hire them. But you never see the hiring managers or the CEOs being handcuffed and taken to jail and prosecuted. Only the people trying to actually make an honest living. So when you look at all of this from a policy context, why do you think this has become a political partisan issue rather than let's get to the root of it, let's resolve it, and let's make sure we can have a robust policy moving forward.
Look, I think when it comes to topics like immigration, there's certainly motive pull for people going one way or the other. Now, the raw data might say one thing and might confirm that it's a net benefit for everyone. But people look around them, they step outside and they think, well, my neighborhood looks really different to what it was 20 years ago. It doesn't feel like I'm living in the same place anymore. And they just get an inherent feeling, like that something has changed and they're losing control. And it's very easy for politicians and for polemists to really appeal to these sorts of emotions in a strong way. The other point is, when someone is going through a genuine struggle, they're struggling to find a job, they're struggling to find work. It's easy to find the scapegoat. You got Schrodinger's immigrant who is somehow stealing your benefits by relying on the welfare state that should be benefiting citizens first, but also stealing your job at the same time. I mean, which one is it really? It really is hard to ultimately, take on these issues. But the more that we can have debate based on fact and figures, the more that we can have an honest discussion about the direction of policy that the country should be taking.
It should be a policy first agenda. So on Indisputable, we have a policy first agenda here. We lead with the policy, politics be damned. And here's what the policy says. Here's what the statistics say. If you're making an argument about undocumented workers taking jobs, if that's your context, meaning you care about American jobs, if you actually care about American jobs, automation kills American jobs more so than any other format in America is automation. And then corporations trying to increase their bottom line by not investing in human capital. That also gets rid of American jobs more so than anything else. And outsourcing gets rid of American jobs as well. So I don't understand the conversation or the debate if they're not also debating these other nuances that are connected and more massively so to job loss in America. And literally you have a program, a system set up in this country where those who are undocumented give a net economic positive to the country rather than create a net negative.
Sure, and I think one of the key factors behind that is that when you hear economic arguments made by people who are anti-immigration or specifically anti-undocumented immigration, it's sometimes a foil for really, social conservative arguments. And they can certainly make those arguments. They can make the argument, I believe in free speech. If they want to argue that America has an aggregate character that they want to preserve for whatever reason, they should make that argument honestly and openly. They should say that this is what I want America to look like. I personally feel insecure that America is looking different to what I think it should look like, rather than trying to cover up with this fake foil about it being an economic argument. Because the economics all support a robust and strong immigration system. It's what built this country in the end. And the fact is that if this country doesn't have a healthy supply of workers coming in, not only do skilled immigrants give a lot more back to the economy than they take away, but their children end up being raised in the new country and supplementing the local fertility rates. And this is going to end up paying for everyone's social security, everyone's pensions, especially considering that in most of the Western world, including Australia, including the US, fertility rates are going down. So who's going to be able to pay that bill? So again, a frank conversation is what we need to have.
And see, that's exactly the point, brother, what you just said. This is not about an economic argument. They use that as a false pretext to disguise their real motive. This is literally about keeping America white and privileged. That's what it really is about. It's about that power, that dominance of a societal structure, a normality that they see being chipped away at. And they will use these arguments as a distraction when the truth is a policy argument doesn't stand up in their favor. It actually opposes them if they tried to have a policy debate. So they don't bother with those debates. They bother with classism. They want to create friction between certain demographics using talking points rather than policy, facts, and science to do so. You're in a unique situation because what you do is really not a partisan thing. What you do is literally a policy thing. But you often, I'm sure, find yourself in political conversations. How do you navigate the political waters here, man? Because Democrats aren't all the way right, but damn, man, Republicans seem to be all the way wrong on a lot of this stuff.
I think you'll find a broad cross-section of Republicans, especially on things like immigration policy. I know it's harder to believe nowadays because the Trump faction or brand of Republicanism is quite strongly against. Well, he claimed he was against illegal immigration, but then he spent most of his term appointing people who are against legal immigration.
Right.
And to be totally honest with you, I made a lot of friends during my time in DC, including strong Trump supporters who, they like me personally. Because we shared some conservative leaning opinions in common, even though we disagreed on other ones. And look, I'm going to give you a little bit of pushback here. I think for many of these people strongly, about controlling immigration, it's less about skin color or the way society looks superficially. It's in their mind, rightly or wrongly, it's about this idea of values, about national character. And this belief that if there isn't control over the immigration intake, then there isn't control over what values everyone shares. But look, if you want the people coming into America to embrace the idea of being American, you have to give them something to aspire to. You have to give them something that's able to include them and have them as part of the national fabric. And that includes being able to maintain aspects of their heritage while they become more American over time. I can tell you that, my family moved to Australia from India. And one of the beautiful things about Australia, as opposed to say a place like Dubai or Singapore, Dubai is probably a better example of this, is that you are actively encouraged to become Australian. And in America, you're actively encouraged to become American. But if you're telling the immigrants coming in, we're a bit skeptical about people who look like you, I think that sends the opposite message. It's actually going to backfire in a big way. The vast majority of immigrants want to build a great new home in their new country. And they're going to be most successful at doing that in a more inclusive and accepting environment.
Yeah, on that point, I completely disagree with you. I completely disagree that race is not at the core of the cultural matrix that we're talking about, because white nationalism has been something that this country was founded upon. The DNA structure of this country was founded upon the idea that white people, white men in particular, were superior to anyone else. And the DNA of that country is still present and prevalent in our systems, rules, ordinances, statutes, and even in how we carry out our norms, our societal norms. So I don't think you get away from that. Now, are there some people who would walk around and claim, listen, I'm not racist, I don't have a racist bone in my body? And they would probably even pass a lie detector test if you were to sit them down and strap them into a lie detector test. But here's the reality, their bias comes out in their decisions. We call it implicit bias, where they will say, I'm not hyper aggressive racist, but they have these biases that play out. And let me bring you to another point. Race identity is still very strong in this country. Race identity is still real in the United States of America. And if you're talking about a value system, here's what I hear when you say that. I hear assimilation. That's what I hear. That should not be the goal. If we are truly a country that celebrates the diversity of each other, remember, the great experiment of America in a mature democracy is an America that actually celebrates, not tolerates, not is biased against the diversity and the differences that others may bring, right? But what we see is the concept that you talked about just now. People are saying, we want you to share the American value system. Well, that cannot be defined by some monolithic reality. That cannot be defined by somebody arbitrarily setting that value system for you, because we are all an expression of 3 E's, brother. Experiences, exposures, and environments. That's it. Nothing else, nothing more. So if you have a set of 3 E's different than the person next door to you, you will have a different value structure. And if you're telling me that my value system is not part or connected to the American value system, you are in fact devaluing me and my experiences, exposures, and environments. But what you're really talking about is this need for the white male dominated white supremacist culture to say everybody needs to think like us. That is in fact assimilation. That's not celebrating diversity. That's not just adhering to a value system. That's saying we literally want you to think the way we think about everything.
Look, that wasn't quite what I was angling at. Now, America was founded broadly, if you had to pick one ideology that underpinned America, it's liberalism. It's liberal democracy, really. It's the fact that this is one of the only major ideology in recent history that has allowed for the integration of people with widely different individual perspectives, experiences, and values in the one country. And what's interesting is, this value system was celebrated even at a time when it had a racist basis. We've read what the founding fathers have had to say about race, and some of them have said things that are completely not pretty whatsoever.
Yeah, but let me just, and I hate to interrupt you, brother, but those who were enslaved, they weren't celebrating that.
You're right, you're absolutely right. And I'm not trying to wash over any of that. What I simply mean to say is, for us to have a country, for America to have a country today that incorporates people from many different values and backgrounds in the one country, there are certain things that it's good to have in common: respect for free speech, respect for the rule of law, and obviously there are certain negative values on the extremes or the fringes that are inconsistent with this. And I think it is totally fair to say that these values that actually enable and support diversity, that support a cohesion, social cohesion within a diverse society, I think is important. There's a reason why immigrants, families like my own family, come to liberal democratic countries like Australia and the US. And specifically, one of the main reasons is because we love these values. There are things that I cannot say out in public if I was still back in India, that I can say here. I can openly criticize the government, I can slam them. And not only will they not put me in jail, but I can do that within the political party that I'm technically a member of. And they won't even get rid of my membership. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, you and I agree on that point. But you do realize, man, there's a growing segment of society in America. They actually will say we want freedom of speech, but they really do not. That they respect rule of law, but they're antithetical to it. That they uphold the Constitution, but they're willing to shred it. Just look at the hypocrisy of January 6th. I'm sure you can appreciate this and appreciate the irony of it. You literally had people saying that they were constitutionalists and that they were backing the police and that they backed the blue and that they are for the rule of law, committing an act of domestic terrorism against the US Capitol. And they're not, here's the thing, man, they're not a small segment anymore. They are a growing, powerful segment, and they're so strong that people that know better, who are in political power, are powerless because of their cowardly activity to actually call them out for who they are.
I'd actually argue that there's been a huge amount of criticism and of attacks against the people who stormed the Capitol. One of the interesting things was, I was in DC around that time, and I was out around midnight. I just left the office. I'd stayed back quite late. And I was worried because at the time, DC was rife with the National Guard. I was one of the only people on the street at the time. And to be honest, as a dark-skinned young man, being one of the only people out there in the middle of an area packed with National Guard troops was a bit intimidating. But I was treated so incredibly well, and I realized all of a sudden we've moved into this weird situation where in some ways we have almost, we're going towards the polar opposite of the Patriot Act era. You ask someone in the national security establishment what a domestic terrorist looks like today, and it's no longer a brown man with a beard. It's probably going to be a white guy with a MAGA hat on. So it's interesting to see that flip. I think the majority of Americans, including people, in fact, who are Republican voters, see an issue with how that particular day was handled and how it ended up turning out. And it was.
Well, let me give you a stat. Are you aware of how many Republicans agree with the Capitol insurrection? Do you know?
Is it something like 40%?
49%. 49, damn near 50% of Republicans agree with what you and I recognize as a terrorist attack. That's today. It was at 38. It increased to 42. It was at 51 at one point, and it dropped to 49. You don't find that to be a real blow at democracy at its core, that damn near half of a political party believes that a terrorist attack against the United States government was justified?
I think it's a testament to the fact that you can have a functioning democracy, even at times of great weakness and great crisis, where we can have a frank discussion about these issues and start what is really a long conversation. Now, the thing is, if there are people out there who genuinely think that the election was a complete fraud and that storming the Capitol was justified because the whole thing was a fraud, then there is a wider conversation with these people that needs to happen, and that needs to be given the sunlight of day.
Man, they need to go to jail if they committed an act of terrorism. And I want to remind you, man, there's a whole lot of people felt like Al Gore got the election stolen from him. A whole lot of Democrats felt like Hillary Clinton got the election stolen from her. You know what they did not do? They did not commit an act of domestic terrorism against the United States government. Brother, I am flat out of time, man. It's been fun. I hope you come back.
Yeah, thanks. It's been a good show.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you stay for our reactions with Ravana. And remember this, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. And remember, the truth is always indisputable.